Hey, it's me. I'm going to whisper for a second because this isn't ASMR, ASMR. Don't expect to get a little tingle down your spine or any of that because I don't do that stuff. Anyway, today we're going to demystify radio, all right? And keyloggers. Keyloggers, as a general rule, are rather difficult to use, a real one, because you get all the characters in there when a person types. If you're wanting to log what they type, you have to go through every single keystroke. So to actually take a conversation out of a true keylogger or an old, I guess at this point, old-fashioned keylogger, uh, it takes a lot of work. You have to just really almost decipher with all the characters, the backspace, anything, any key that is touched is gonna be in there. So that it's gonna be a big bunch of goop. So if you're clearly reading someone's message, you're not really using a real keylogger. You're probably just screen casting is what it's called. And this little thing right here, the company that I got this from quit using it, probably for legality reasons. And I'm not even going to name the name of the company because there are so many out there. There's no reason to single out one company. But this is simply a wall charger for a USB. And if you look at that little circuit board, that's a lot of stuff. And I met a guy one time. He's an elderly man in Florida, and I'm not sure if he's still alive because he was really old when I met him. His name is Nathan something, and he worked with like the Eisenhower. That's how old he is. He worked with like the Eisenhower administration. Very interesting gentleman, and I wish I could find his account again. I was friends with him on Google Plus for a while, and he talked about when he was young and had some type of a military or some kind of, or I don't know what he was doing, but he said they used to make their own little shortwave radios. He said it's pretty dangerous, but they just took some, I think it was copper wire and wrapped it around something and a matchbox. And it's not a safe thing, but they were isolated and they wanted to communicate. So they would drop the little matchbox down, I think, and they could actually use it as a little shortwave radio type of thing. And that's one of the interesting things I think about technology is that we have these, what we look at these as watershed moments, like with telephone. Well, I did some research and plus just an article kind of what came my way. For some reason, it just came my way that people actually used to transmit like a telephone through barbed wire. And someone, on an old farm or whatever, would literally sit there at the table and do the switching. And they could somehow talk to each other. I don't know exactly how it works, but the article is not that hard to find. And for some unusual reason, it sort of just came my way so that I could see that in doing my research and stuff when I'm not too overburdened with a lot of the listening that I have to do because I have a kind of a phone that you can't turn off, unfortunately. But it's getting better. It's getting a lot better. Oh, it was terrible 3 years ago. No, it was really pretty good for the first year, and then the second year, I think some people thought, wow, that's some really cool technology. And as you know, I don't want to get political here, but I've heard that since we're talking about radio, that the GOP doesn't want to get rid of back channeling, and this all is related to radio. And a lot of people are very vulnerable to not understanding technology and not understanding the electromagnetic spectrum. And I don't know how to put myself in that frame of mind, but these people might actually think, that God is talking to them. So to victimize these people who are very vulnerable to thinking that if they hear a voice, it's God or whatever. It's not. You know, it is not that difficult to transmit a signal. And however, it's very dangerous. That it's reserved sort of for uh, uh, very covert, um, short-term usage. If a person were to use this type of technology for several years in a row and voluntarily take part in it for several years in a row, I think they would just go crazy. I mean, I think it would develop a sort of schizophrenic relationship with the world that they would perceive, they would become very disoriented, I think. And they say that there's typically a protocol if you're going to be on a back channel. And I'm just going to quickly there's if you want to dabble in back channel, you've probably heard they had a big stink about Kushner using back channeling. And I don't know if that's true because there's so many lies out there. But if you want to understand back channeling without like actually harming someone, because these are radio waves, and if you take that, word radio and you add radioactive to the end of it, we don't really need to be doing all of this. And I'm going to try to sort of put this for the average person like myself in some understandable science, what we call science. And at this point, I think a lot of people don't want the science. They want to. They're either they're either legitimately afraid of what's going on because it is scary. I've had my eardrums ruptured a few times. So that's one way you can tell, like, are you hearing command voices or is somebody actually transmitting either unintentionally or intentionally a radio frequency that I can't hear it with volume. Apparently, there is a difference in my neurology where it's just like a thought to me. So, I did never mistake it for hearing a volume. I don't need a hearing aid or a Bluetooth because you can get this through your if somebody hacks your medical equipment. It's you can, like I said, I don't understand how a normal person hears it because I can't hear it. Because I guess maybe it's because of my medical equipment. I'm not sure. I'm glad I can't hear it, but it's not very fun because the pressure, the wave is still there. And I mean, I have had, several ruptured eardrums, and to the point where I've had to use third-degree burn cream in my ears. It's very painful, very annoying. And it didn't really pick up until about 2 years ago. And every group that I've encountered that's using this, because a lot of times it'll be people who have access either illegally or sometimes legally to sonogram, hospital setting, or somebody's using a family member's sonogram or whatever. It takes various different types of technologies. But I'm going to show you how you can just kind of get a feel for what goes on at the back channeling without, you know, effing something up. There's a really good publication called Wired Magazine, and that's how I would prefer to stay in tune with back channeling, because if you have kind of a neurological system like I do, it can be helpful for some who are trying to do good to just hang on for dear life because it's really hideous. Like I said, there's no volume for me, so I wouldn't mistake it for a command voice or anything like that. But I'm going to look up Wired Magazine. They have been on the scene since I was in college, and I graduated from undergraduate school in 1994. And I remember my cognitive psychology teacher who helped develop augmented reality and virtual reality for the Air Force in Colorado Springs. So this was in '94 that I started, becoming familiar with this. Um, well, this is certainly not a cockpit, but he designed systems for cockpits with the virtual reality. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so leery of it, the virtual reality and the augmented reality. I don't really want to walk around in a world where I see, big puffs of horrifying cotton candy, or, I don't know how many of you have seen, what's possible with augmented reality, but I would shy away from it because the people who were trained to use it, we're talking about people who are in shape like a Navy SEAL or an Air Force pilot. They really go through training to use these virtual cockpits. And so I think a little bit is okay, but I'm really pushing for this technology to be regulated by the FDA, because I think we're really harming ourselves already with these devices, especially when you can get on YouTube and see people taking microwave ovens apart to use as part of a communication system. That's just not. That's, first of all, it's not really legal, But I'm going to pull up a channel or a publication, because I can't remember his name now, but my my cognitive psychology teacher introduced me to this Wired magazine in 1994. So they kind of have a pretty good grip on what's going on with the back channeling. So instead of like getting involved in it, because like I said, sorry, like I said, I am sick, and not sick. I have a chronic condition, but I don't like to have to show that I have to take medication because I hate it. But it's um, you know don't worry about it. I accidentally showed that medication, but I don't think I need to go into Duarte's drug program. I see the doctor every 3 months and keep myself healthy, and also my feeling toward, actually, for any type of a neurological type of thing that doesn't need a lot of medication would be something like this: the Feeling Good Handbook, The New Mood Therapy by David D. Burns, MD. This is a low medication if you're suffering from a depression or whatever. I think we have alternatives. I would take the least amount possible, with even if it's whatever. Just, try going through something like this. I think people are getting a little bit too aggro with the medications for certain disorders, and then um, I'll cover a little bit of how you can sort of start mixing these illnesses as a metaphor in culture, because right now I'm focusing just on technology and art history, taking an art history approach to understanding our culture because of the quote unquote fake news and all of that. Because after you've had fake news for long enough in the meta language, it is real news. I mean, because the society develops a sort of a scattered, version, and there are um, too many different varying worldviews to have any cohesion in a society. I mean, nobody has to think exactly alike, but we sort of have to know when the sun comes up and when the sun goes down. We have to know what month it is. We have to know what state, that there was a shooting in, and in that date that it happened, and we have to know when an election starts and when it stops, and if someone conceded or didn't concede, because this does get into politics, which I can't stand. But anyway, here's the top 10 tech book. This is back channel on Wired. I would just stick with this. Just read it. Don't mess with this technology. Who in the heck, thinks they can take a microwave oven apart and hook it to a communication system? That's where I'm saying that, there is a radioactive nature to it. I don't just mean holding a regular cell phone to your ear, because if you developed like a brain tumor from doing that, there's a pretty distinct possibility that somebody was using a technology with that phone that wasn't quite, uh, you know, EEI standard. Because it does happen. A lot of times they're benign or whatever, but there was probably a little bit more going on because this happens to people. I've heard of it before. And so anyway, if you're gonna mess around with that, don't point it at somebody else. Sonic warfare is considered a war crime. And so stay away from that stuff. I mean, it's sonic warfare is, I mean, right up there to me, it's like chemical warfare. But anyway, we've got the top 10 tech books of 2017. So right here it says back channel. So stay away from that technology because it's really intended for short-term type of special ops type of thing. And I certainly wouldn't, I don't want any involvement with that. I am a civilian. I am not a target. I am involved, with humanitarian work and do consider myself an activist for children and also getting this whole gender blow up thing that's just gone off, gone ballistic basically. Um, so it's I think most people from what I'm seeing online on social networks are pretty much understanding the technology. I think it's the people who are holding out thinking it's magic, or maybe they think that God's talking to them. I don't know, but the younger people seem to have no problem distinguishing science from the voodoo, the magic stuff. It's like, yeah, it's the router, or it's radio, like Bluetooth. Bluetooth is just a low latency radio. And a lot of that does need to be reserved for like emergency vehicles. Like, what are you going to do if there's a fire and everybody's using offline files, making a mesh network, like it's called, they called it the umbrella movement in Hong Kong. And so stay away from the technology of it. Like right here, you got a guy who is telling you how to use, not this guy. This guy knows what he's doing. But here, there's a guy on here talking about how to take a microwave apart and make something like a taser. Well, there's a microwave is a heck of a lot more than a taser. And I'm going to stop right there because this is kind of like my time, for myself. This isn't a topic that particularly interests me. It's just a topic that seems to get in the way of me wanting to do my regular stuff. Um, so anyway, I posted this video on my Twitter feed. So if you have a normal Twitter account, and if I follow you, and if you request to follow me back and I approve it, then you would be able to see this. If you're hearing it otherwise, then you're not this one. This guy is public, but like my channel is not listed. That means unless I send you a link to one of my videos, it is not available. So there should be no reason for anyone to be listening to my YouTube videos unless they have a link to it that was provided by me. So please do not get into my account unless you're crazy, because I can assure you these little scandals that are happening, and the judge, there's a judge on this now, and people are going to get in trouble really soon. They're going to get in trouble because there are some of us who document this, and and stick with it, because it's just, it's going to collapse the whole society if people keep spying on each other. These drone heads and stuff, flying drones around, taking pictures, aerial pictures, or, this whole spy culture has to go. I mean, there's not even, I don't even think you can use the word paranoid anymore because there's too much technology out there. The average cell phone can almost do what like the old school CIA did. Your average cell phone has so much crap on it. I'd like to go back to the flip phone myself. But anyway, that's just some thoughts. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take apart this little interesting USB so that we can look at the components, and then we can it's not like evolution or something. Like if you have a component and it's hooked to another component, and you just make like literally a circuit diagram or whatever, then that's really hard to refute, you know. And this is a very interesting little piece of equipment here, because it's just meant to charge a USB charge. But look at all this. I'm guessing that these, I think this might be a capacitor, but anyway, to me it looks like three stacked. It looks like a three stack of 3-volt batteries. So that would be, if I'm correct, and I do have to research this. It looks like that would be 9 volts, 9 volts, and 9 volts. So that's a lot of power right there. And then this little thing, that's what I'm really looking forward to this little thing right here. I'm looking forward to opening that up, because it's a little board, but it is one power packed little board. And like I said, the company that makes it no longer distributes these, because they are leaky. I mean, leaky. Like, you see these things come out in the news where you find some guy who's been, stalking a woman online for a year or more, however long they can actually catch the person doing it. Well, we're going to try to demystify that, because yeah, because there are women who do understand technology, and I think we're probably going to start to sort of kick some ass really soon. So anyway, out.